Because here's what I don't like about dating apps. You can't get a sense of anybody's personality. And to be honest, I have met so many people that I think are like drop dead gorgeous that I want absolutely nothing to do with because they drive me batshit. And I've also met people that at first I thought were just like decently attractive, like, you know, didn't really catch my eye. And then I got to know them and I'm like, oh, you're sexy. You're sexy for sure. And I can't get that from an app.
Do you have fish pictures?
Fish pictures?
Like where the guy's holding a fish?
I'm gay. I have a few swimming with dolphins, but no, not like no trophy fish picture. Welcome to my home.
You mean my home?
It's neither of our homes.
But it is our podcast.
Glittering gay.
Coming your way.
So thanks for tuning in today.
If you're watching and you're gay and you have a fish picture, could you please DM Tyler to let him know that gay men do fish?
I'm going to get 0 DMs. All right. So this is my main picture.
Oh my God.
I wore that shirt the other day.
Oh my God. Okay.
I wore that shirt.
Okay.
And then.
Biggest mistake that men make. Go ahead.
What?
Posting a photo with a woman.
I'm gay.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. So then this picture of me on my horse, you hate it.
I actually love this photo. I actually captured this photo.
Really?
To have it printed for you.
Stop it.
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I love this photo. I don't know that I love it on Tinder because it just, you riding a horse, there's just some, but let's keep going.
I'm open to that feedback because I was like, this is like a cool, interesting thing about me.
I want you to keep going because I have so much feedback for you because I am absolutely going to 1048% disagree with you, but let's keep going.
Okay. It's my little sex pot picture.
Oh my God. Okay.
Another one with a woman, another one on a horse. That was me like walking through the warm-up ring. So not on a horse, but in my horse gear. And that's it. Those are my pictures.
Okay. And so you made the statement that you can't see someone's personality from a photo, from an app.
Right.
You don't think that any of those photos have a personality?
I think they do.
Well, you're actually disagreeing with yourself then.
Okay. So let's look. So I put a picture like this up because it's a thirst trap.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Let's go back to in the gear. You don't think that's a thirst trap? In
this
those
one?
Pants?
Yeah, the thighs are on display.
Oh, yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Let me wrap those around your head. I mean, come on, give me a break. I mean, if you really seriously, like whether your brand, because we're going into brand, so whether your brand is professional or personal, I think absolutely 1048% that you have given your brand and your personality and exactly what you're looking for in those photos.
Okay. So you have positive feedback.
Oh, I absolutely.
All right. Well,
I mean, and maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like you might be open to a smash and dash.
Well, I mean, very open to it.
So, I mean, if I'm looking at those photos, that is definitely screams smash and dash.
So it looks like I'm not looking to settle down.
And so please tell me you don't have a long-term relationship in your profile. Just something casual. Is that what did you say? I'm looking for something casual?
Hold on. What does it say?
I don't know.
It says, it feels weird whenever you read your own thing out loud.
Oh, really?
I said, I love life. I split my time between Sag Harbor, New York City, and Palm Beach. So a bit of a nomad, but not sure I'd have it any other way. Also, I have 2 dogs and a horse, so you probably shouldn't hate animals. And that's it.
Or be allergic. But it doesn't give you the option to say, I'm down to hit it and quit it, or I'm looking for a long-term relationship or something.
No,
Because
and under my interests, all I selected was gym, self-development, Broadway, equestrian, and real estate.
yeah, so if you were on the girls' side, we would take one look at that and we would say, yeah, it's hit it and quit it. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, and this is the thing is like, again, I think that you go back into what is it that you're looking.
I started it late, so we're going to assume we're approximately. How far along are we right now? Oh, great.
Okay.
So we'll try to pineapple around 20.
Okay. So, but anyway, back to brand, whether it's personal or professional, I think that you're being very clear on the brand that you're putting out there. Now, I am an IC, okay, in the DISC test. So I'm an expressive analytical. So it's very interesting. When I had a dating profile, when I was on the apps, I had my beautiful pictures, but my description was very detailed. And I would probably say in business, I'm very similar to that. Whereas I have like my star sweaters and my big hair and my vibrant personality, but I'm also a numbers person. Like I am very much the numbers person. So I could.
Can I stop and just chime in on
Yes.
what I think you do so well? Because, I think there's so many people who come across your content and they fall in love with you. And everybody has like their various reasons. But so when I first met Glenda's got gimmicks. She is the queen of gimmicks. And at first they used to make me laugh. And then I started to realize they were brilliant. And y'all, the more I get to know Glennda and the deeper our relationship comes, I realize just how thought out every single decision and action that you take is. And I'm just using this example. There could be so many, but she tips at like drivers and concierge people strictly with $2 bills because it's a surprise to them. Nobody gets tipped with $2 bills. So she's not giving singles or fives. She pulls out a couple special $2 bills. And she pulled them out of her purse when we were at dinner the other night so that she could tip the valet guy. And I was like, why do you have so many? I was like, how do you just happen to have so many $2 bills? And you were like, well, I go to the bank and I have them order them for me so that I always have them here. And it's just like, these are all calculated things, right? These are all...
they're intentional.
Exactly.
Not calculated. Huge difference between intention.
Oh, teach me.
So calculated is I'm going to do this and because I want to calculate the return on this. My intentions are not calculated. My intentions are meant to be memorable.
Right.
Period. For the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Tipping in $2 bills, asking your name, looking into your eyes, remembering your name, remembering something that you said.
Well, that's what I was going to get into next. So I'm using the way you were with the valet people both nights that we went out was like a branding masterclass to me. Because firstly, I think no matter who somebody is, where they are, they all get this amazing moment with you. And so we get out of the car. Glennda introduces herself to everybody. I've talked about this on previous podcasts. Everybody gets an introduction. She asks about them. She asks about their name. And when you spoke to the first person, whenever we went to CNS, because I thought it was CNS.
Yeah.
But when we went there,
Stephen.
Exactly. You said, I'm Glennda, like the good witch. And so you gave him a favor on kind of like how to remember you. And when we left and he was out there, we walked out. It was a busy night at the restaurant. And he said, Glennda, right? And you said, yes. And Steven, I remember you. And you guys had that moment. You had that moment of connection. And going back to like habits and routines, this is something that kind of like lives inside of you. And you can think about it as like, oh, she's so funny. She's so playful. She's so quirky. But no, this is all very thought out. These are all like very intentional, thought out things that clearly are authentic and bring you a lot of joy. They're not coming from like
No.
any sort of fake place.
That's
I
why
can
they're
tell
not
you,
calculated.
right? Because I can tell you love it. I can tell you love connecting with these people.
Oh, I do. I love it. I am genuinely interested in people. And that's part of my intrinsic person. Like, to me, that is me being interested in people. I love people.
And you say, oh, my stars and stripes. The first thing we do when we get here is I see you have all sorts of gifts from people that you've had impact on who have sent you these amazing gifts with your sayings on them, with stars on them. Like, y'all, if y'all don't realize that what Glennda has done is built such a unique, memorable, lovable, joyous brand by just having a damn good time.
Yeah.
I mean, what you've done is so incredible because people really think about what is my brand? And they put limitations on their brand. And I've had people ask, I wonder if you've had this, but I've had people ask me about where I came up with concepts for videos, and they're like, it just won't work for my brand because, I'm with a luxury market. And I'm like, I love it when people say that. I'm like, you do realize I sell very expensive homes, right? Like extremely expensive homes.
Like the shipmate captain or ship captain.
Exactly.
That is a quirky ass video.
Totally.
I mean, but the level of detail in that video, the memorable X factor of that video, that's a $10 million. Is it a townhome or a brownstone?
It's a townhouse.
Okay.
On that one.
It's a $10 million townhouse. Hello.
And it was on the market with a much bigger brokerage than me, with a very luxury clientele for a year before I got it. We sold it very quickly, and we got the job done. And every single person who walked into the house, they were like, were you the sea captain?
Yeah.
Were you the sea captain in the video? They're like, oh my God, I love that video. I love the video so much. And then as we were going through the house, they'd be like, oh, this is the part where you did whatever.
This is the wax.
Exactly.
I mean,
they're like, oh, I thought you made that up. You're like the wax seal.
The wax seal. And that's the thing is like the key components to a brand, in my opinion. And let me just preface this, that I didn't go to college. I don't have a marketing degree. I basically don't know my ass from a hole in the ground. But when it comes to branding, I think I have done an okay job. So, number one, I think it's critical for you to be associated with your brand. So, whatever you pick. So, in my opinion, you've done these almost musical Broadway like skit videos. Like, I can't, number one, I don't even know if anybody could ever pull it off except you. But if anybody ever tried to do it, I would be like, oh, that's Tyler's style. Like, It's like your style of video. Like, looking off camera is kind of my style. So it's got to be in sync and associated with you no matter what. So I have, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 gifts on the dining room table of star stuff that people have sent me. Romance novels. People associate me with the romance novel. I love it. But this is the thing. It's like, you got to be memorable. It's got to be easily associated with you. And it's got to be an extension of your personality. And so I think it's so easy to make people feel good. And when you can make someone feel good, the brand grows organically. They want to know, like, okay, so what is this Tyler guy's deal? And so, like, my license tag on my car says my name, Glennda. Glennda like the Good Witch. oh, okay. So then I've given them a frame of reference, something they can kind of easily, okay, that's Glennda. I tip in the $2 bills. Oh, now I want to make sure, Hassan, these are my lucky $2 bills.
Mm-hmm.
And it never fails. I would say 5 out of 10, maybe 7 out of 10 people say, oh, I collect these.
That is what the guy said at CNS.
Right.
Whenever we left, he was like, "That's so cool." It's like, no, actually, I'm sorry. That was last night at Atlas. The guy was like, "I collect these." He's like, "Thank you so much for." I was like, "What?"
And this is the thing.
I was like, "You should sign it."
Well, this is the thing. Is like a lot of people will tip in a 10 or a 20, at some fancy place, and to be honest with you, that doesn't get anybody's attention. They've gotten plenty of those. But I can tip my $6 or $8 and in my $2 bills, and they are happy as a damn clam.
Mm-hmm.
And they remember me. And it never, and when I go to a hotel, I always do it as with the guy who pulls the bags out of the car. Always with him, because he's the first one with the radio to say, okay, this woman's coming in. Her name is, Glennda Baker. Cause they'll, and then you walk up to and they're like, oh, hello, Miss Baker. How are you? Like they know me. But word gets around about the $2 bills. So by the time the guy brings the bags up to the room and I'm tipping in the $2 bills, so now 2 people have gotten the $2 bill experience. So now Angel at the swimming pool, Maria at the restaurant, everybody knows that the $2 bills are coming, and they can't wait to get to me. It's so funny.
What happens if you run out of $2 bills?
Oh, do you have any idea how many I have? I order them.
Don't say it all, because now people are going to break in and look for your $2 bills. We don't want to know how much cash you carry, honey.
Oh my gosh, this is so funny, because we're in Atlanta, Georgia, and that like a lot of rappers live here in Atlanta, and they wear all of these diamonds. They flash all of this cash. And a lot of their homes have been broken into because of that. So you're exactly right. But if you're breaking into my house, if you want $1,000 in $2 bills, like, you could do better than that.
You could. You could dream bigger.
Dream bigger. I am a small fish. But back to brand. So Tyler, I want to understand from you though, because I don't know if I've ever told you this. When I started my video journey, Denver said, send me some videos that you like. And your bubble bath video was one of the videos that I sent.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Denver?
Verify this. I'll take a thumbs up.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my head, you are such a trailblazer of unique real estate video content. Do you think that the video helped you build your brand, or do you think that your brand was well established before it and you just implemented video in it to maybe rocket shipped it off?
So the feedback I had always gotten before I was making videos from my clients of like what made me different and why they chose me was because they're like, I wanted this to be fun. There was something about you that I could just exhale. I didn't feel like you would ever lie to me. I didn't feel like you'd ever take advantage of me. I felt like you were on my side, and I felt like I made like a new best friend that I was laughing with and taking their advice. And like, that's the feeling I want people to walk away from when they work with me. And if you're looking for somebody who's going to give you that shark and we yelled, and because I do actually think some people are looking for that experience, that is a brand, and it's not a bad brand.
100%.
It's just not my brand.
Right.
But if you want that person who's going to like yell and scream and say, okay, I think we got him. We're just going to wait an hour. Like so that's like, because it makes you feel powerful. That's not my brand. And
you know what? I'm going to interrupt you. Either move your phone or turn it over.
Is it blowing up too much for you?
Well, it's distracting me, and I want to pay attention to you.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, honey.
No, I understand. So my challenge was that I was like, how do I communicate I'm not that? because I keep showing up, especially in New York City where there's like finance people, and that is their brand. That's how they negotiate. That's how they want to be spoken to and represented. And I was like, I'm not the person for these people. And yet I keep getting called in for these meetings and these pitches that are a waste of time because we're not a brand match. And the videos became the secret weapon that I am broadcasting exactly who I am. I am shouting it from the rooftops. This is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is how I operate. And the videos explaining my brand catapulted me. And I had it was a huge eye-opening experience because I did stop getting called for people who I wasn't a brand match for. And I started getting called in by 10 times the amount of people who were just like dying to work with me. People were like, where have you been my whole life?
Right.
Like, I am just like so tired of these other people. Like, I want to enjoy this process. And I'm a great salesperson.
Right.
Like, I am so good at getting in, squeezing people's motivations. Like, I know what I'm good at. And I'm entertaining. People are drawn to me and they want to do business with me. And like, those are my superpowers in working together. I had this, when I think of brand, I expanded out into the Hamptons and I made this commercial for the Hamptons. So on brand for me. And it's basically me making a parody of people taking the Hamptons too seriously. And at first it like starts with me just kind of like model walking slow motion down the beach and there's a sunset behind me. And then I go to like take my sunglasses off as if I'm going to like give you this most like smoldering look. And I trip and face plant on the beach and like start to like walk away. And then it like starts cutting to all these things where it's like me almost doing something fancy. Like I sit down for this like gourmet meal and then they take the lid off and it's just a hot dog. And then I'm in the backyard of this like $35 million, it was a real listing, a $35 million listing in Southampton. And there's this gorgeous pool and I like come running from the side and I belly flop. There's me trying to play tennis and breaking the tennis racket. It's like all the things, but I'm just having a good time. I was so proud of the video. I thought it was so good. So I put it out there. And a couple days later, I get maybe the nastiest message I've gotten in response to any marketing piece that I've ever put out. And it was this girl, she's a woman, I should say, sorry, and an agent at Compass in the Hamptons. That's as far as I'll go with it. And says, I just want to let you know that you were the topic of our sales meeting this morning because the video that you have made is a disgrace to our industry and it is a disgrace to our market and it is a disgrace to all of the agents who work so hard out here. And goes on to tell me about the invisible army. You know, it tells me about all the opinions that were shared about me in her sales meeting. And I responded.
I can't wait to hear this.
I actually, when I responded after I sent it, I was like, that's a great way of explaining a brand. And I was like, I went back and I rewatched the video because a lot of your feedback struck me. And I was afraid that maybe I had said something offensive. After watching it, I think maybe you just misunderstand my style and my brand. The best way I can think to describe it is that as you and I do the same thing, we both sell homes in the exact same market. We do it and market it in very different ways. And so I would draw your attention to airlines. And Delta has built their entire business catering to the business audience, getting those corporate clients, getting the corporate clientele. And JetBlue, also flying everywhere on beautiful airplanes, has catered to the adventurer, has catered to people going on trips and journeys. But they do the exact same thing. They are flying people around and yet they are viewed in totally different ways. I don't want to be viewed the same way as you. And I hope you don't want to be viewed the same way as me. And that's what a brand is. It's what you're doing in a sea of people who are doing the same thing, but it's how you want to be represented. You know, and like when you walk up to the kiosk at JetBlue, The kiosk, I don't know if you've ever noticed, it says howdy. That's what it says on the digital kiosk. I'm like, this is a brand. It is telling you like we're here to have fun.
Yeah.
Chill.
Yeah.
And I always think it's funny, like whenever you hear about like all of the airline controversy, it's always with the same airlines lately. And I'm like, and it's because their branding, their public image is drawing in that kind of person. And the reason I'm almost always on Delta or JetBlue is because I know I'm either flying with professionals or people trying to have a good time.
You know, I think that you make such a valid point. People are afraid to be themselves. And we have found success being unapologetically true to ourselves.
Yeah.
And we've enjoyed the hell out of working with people that want to be around people like us. You know, building my brand has taken so much pressure off of me to be perfect, to be liked, to be, oh, I'm that very professional, super smart. You know, please don't let anybody find out that I'm not really educated. Like, it has taken all of that pressure off. Everybody knows what I sell. Everybody knows how I talk. Everybody knows all my personal business. There's nothing you can hold over me. I don't care if you don't like it. This is the thing, is that some people, you know, like sweet tea and some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And the good news is you can have whatever you want. But I'd much rather weed out the riffraff by making my brand me, a true reflection of me.
The more you can do that, not only does it make you money and save you time
And energy.
but like I used to really struggle going home and being like, well, that person didn't like me, that person didn't connect with me, and now I just never hear from them. I got to tell you, it's a lot nicer to just never hear from them.
Oh, it is.
It's so much better.
It's like the guy who didn't list the house with me. Like, I was thinking to myself, what if they called me back? Like, what would I do? Because he was such a butthead.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, he was such an ass. Like, what if they called me back to list their house? This is really going to suck. So
you just send them a pineapple upside down cake.
I actually would not have sent these people a pineapple upside down cake.
What would you have sent them?
Have you ever seen the movie The Help?
Of course. Oh, no.
And on that note?
And on that note,
let's pineapple.
Hi, Tyler and Glenda. It's Susie Darling from Pocket Bar NYC. My question is, what is the worst voicemail you've ever received? And how did you respond? Okay, can't wait to tune in. And I hope you answer my question. Bye.
Do you know Susie?
No, but I know Pocket Bar.
So Susie owns Pocket Bar.
Well, my Stars and Stripes.
Susie and she is responsible for some of the funnest nights I've ever had. My mom and I went to Pocket Bar together one night, and a couple of her friends were in town, and my mom, this was years ago, my mom still talks about it to this day, so much so that my mom bought a plaque and had it attached to the back of the chair that we sat in because she had so much fun that night. She wanted it commemorated for life, and Susie agreed. She's like, sure. She's like, buy a plaque, have it put on the back of the chair, and that plaque is still there. Anyway,
the worst voicemail you've ever received.
The worst voicemail I have ever received. That is a good question. It's also like an on the spot one. Do you have one? Do you know?
I do have one. I'm assuming she means professionally.
I think it could probably go either way.
Yeah. So professionally, I had an agent leave me a voicemail. And it was a man. And I guess he. Let me rephrase this. He was not a real estate agent, but he was in the real estate business, and he left me a message. And basically, that message was a demand that I do something, and that if I did not do something, that there would be a consequence for that. And I listened to it, and I listened to it, and I saved it forever. And he was kind enough to follow it up with a written email, which I saved and I printed should anything ever happen to me. And he reiterated what he said in that voicemail was that I would do something or else there would be a consequence. And I paused and I put myself in a position subsequent to that that man will never have the opportunity to hurt me. He was very threatening, and he was all about power, and he told me to stand down. He used that phrase, "You're going to stand down." And I'm not going to discuss this with you any further. Do you understand me? And I remember listening to that voicemail. I remember reading that email. And I thought to myself, you have no idea the power that you have given me.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that I did have an answer for that one.
Yeah. So as you were talking about that, I definitely remembered the worst voicemail that I ever received. And I remember it very specifically. During the height of like the lockdown, the early days of the pandemic, I was at a house that I used to rent in East Hampton. And I got a phone call, and it was and every now and then I'll get like a phone call from a fan, and I usually think it's really cute, and I like talk to them, and like especially during the pandemic I was so bored. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
you know? And so this guy calls me, and he seems harmless. And he was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just cleaning. And I spoke to him for a few, and I'm usually on the phone for under a minute with these people. I'm like, well, I gotta go. Thanks. I was like, appreciate the call. But honestly, I usually leave them feeling like that was so nice. Like, oh, what a little like jolt of happiness for the day. And anyway, this guy had tons of questions and started pretty quickly telling me that he was in love with me and had always been in love with me. And
you didn't know him?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
He started by telling me that he lives in Tennessee. And he goes into a lot of details about some dark periods of his life. And it's like uncomfortable. And I didn't have anywhere to be, but it was just kind of like, I think this person, he seemed nice. And I was like, he just needs to be listened to right now. I was like, what the hell else am I doing? And we're in a lockdown. and so I continue to let it go. He starts to tell me that he's like, I'm actually in prison right now, and I'm calling you from prison. And then I started to get like a little uncomfortable, but also still like not really caring. And he tells me all about how all he's done in prison is watch $1 Million Listing over and over and over again. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. I didn't really know what to say. And he was like, I found your number online. And he's like, I was like, I'm going to call it. There's no way it could be him. He's like, but I called him and it was you. And he's like, and I can't believe it's you. And he's like, and I think it's because God wants us to be in a relationship. He's like, Tyler, he's like, I think you're the one. He's like, I'm in love with you. Can we please meet? And I was like, you're in Tennessee. I was like, I'm in New York. I was like, there's a pandemic going on. And I was like, it was so nice of you to call. I was like, I was like, the show is real. I'm very busy. I have to go. And so I politely get off the phone, and he starts sending me all sorts of unsolicited pictures and all sorts of text messages about how he misses me already. And then he starts nonstop calling me. When I say nonstop calling me, the second my phone stops ringing, it starts ringing again. And this goes on for hours. So I block him. It seems like the smart thing to do. And then it immediately keeps happening, but from private numbers. And I start to get really scared. And the first time he calls from the private number, he leaves a voicemail, and he's like, "Did you really block me?" He was like, "Did you really block me?" He was like, "I knew you were not who I thought you were." And said something like semi-threatening, and I start to freak out. And all of a sudden I go from thinking this was just like a funny little moment to like, I'm terrified. And it happens all day long. And I get several voicemails from him. The worst voicemail I get is from his mother, because he starts calling me from all sorts of interesting or different numbers because I keep blocking things. And this number calls me. It's a Tennessee number, which is where he says he's from. So I assume it has to be him. And I get a voicemail, and I check it, and it's a woman, and she's like, "Hey." And she just really kind of makes a noise and goes, Mom, he didn't answer. He's like, "But if he calls you back, you are to call me right away." And he was like, "And don't say anything." He's like, "Just call me and get me on the phone. I need to talk to him." And he doesn't realize that he's on the voicemail. And he starts basically talking about how he's using his mother to get in. When I tell you I spiral, I'm like out in the Hamptons by myself, where I'm feeling like pretty safe. But anybody who's out there knows that at night it is pitch black dark.
It is so dark, and and everybody like rolls up the sidewalks.
So I block all these numbers. It eventually stops. And this is not part of the voicemail story, but I got it because this is the funniest mistake I've ever made in my life. This was before I got sober. That night, I'm like feeling better, and I eat a mushroom chocolate, and I walk down to the beach, and I'm just like taking it. But as everything starts to kick in, I start to get terrified. And so I go back to my house, and I call my friend Jillian, and I was like, "Jillian," I was like, "I have a stalker." I was like, and she lives, at that point in time, she lived like 10 minutes away from that house. And she was like, "Then come over right now." And I was like, "Okay." And in my head, I was like, I ate a mushroom chocolate. I should probably use an Uber. And so I call this Uber, and I'm upstairs getting dressed, and I see the Uber pull into my driveway from upstairs, and I was like, okay. I was like, and I just have like this panic inside of me, and I start to walk out of my bedroom, and my phone starts ringing, and it's from a number that's not saved, and I assume it's the Uber driver calling to tell me that he's here. And so I answer the phone, and I was like, "I'm coming." And he goes, "Why did you block my number?" And I screamed bloody murder. I drop the phone. I start sobbing hysterically, and I like panic run down the stairs like it's out of a movie. I left my dog and like lock the door, grab the phone, and I jump into the back of the Uber, and I'm like so heightened. I'm like shaking and I'm crying. And the Uber driver turns around and he goes, "Tyler." And the way he said Tyler, I heard the other guy's voice, and I went, I screamed bloody murder so hard in the back of the Uber that the Uber driver also screamed bloody murder because it scared the shit out of him. And I was like, I just need to go to my friend's house. I just need to get out of here and go to my friend's house.
I am literally so captivated by this story that I am like, oh my God, how did the Uber driver know his name was Tyler? And then I'm like, oh yeah, duh.
There's an app. Like, "I love $1 Million Listing." And he's like, "And why did you block my?" Can you imagine? Anyway, that was a long story. Sorry, Susie, but you prompted a good one. We'll see you next week.
So like,
share,
subscribe,
rate,
review.
And y'all, if that stalker story isn't good enough to share, I'm telling you, I'm running out of ammunition.
What about mine? I thought,
girl, We had some boys.
Scandalous.
I know. We'd actually need to unpack that offline. I feel like there's some details here. That
You
need.
have no idea.
All right. Well, we go into the grocery store on that.